Hi everyone, today we are going to be talking about Q2 and Q3. More precisely, why has Stanton not upgraded to the Q3 yet? So tell me your reasons.
Alright, so before going to the video, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you guys because we have now about to reach 700 subscribers. I hope we reach it by the time this video is published.
Oh yeah, that's why we have
So
this, right? Yeah.
to celebrate, I recently went on a trip to Switzerland and I bought this 7-year whiskey from Interlaken. So 7 years of whiskey for 700 subscribers. Cheers, Junio.
Cheers. It's good.
On the sweet side.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it. So here we have the Q2, and because this is the Hodinkee version, so it's a white version. As you know, I have an affinity for white cameras, as you would see on our channel.
That's probably why he doesn't have a Q3 at the moment.
Yeah. Probably waiting for the special edition.
Probably why, yeah.
All right, Junio, so please convince me why I should upgrade my camera.
I mean, look at it. I don't think it needs any convincing besides just the look of the accessories that you get with it, and obviously the tilt screen, right? I think the tilt screen is a key selling point that I think it's just worth the upgrade by itself, right?
I agree that it's, especially having shot other camera systems like Fuji, Nikon, I do enjoy having the tilt screen. And so that's actually one thing I really can't argue against of why I won't get a Q3. But that being said, I think having shot the Q2 for quite some time now, I'm quite happy shooting from the waist because I think my style of like street photography, a lot of times I will zone focus and I'm shooting from the waist. Although I do agree that having a tilt screen and being able to actually compose the photo and look at the camera would probably result in a higher capture rate, a higher retention rate.
For sure.
But I think sometimes, so far I've lived quite well by shooting from the waist and not having a tilt screen. And I do enjoy looking through this amazing electronic viewfinder.
Right.
So it's a really good upgrade, I agree, but not something I can't completely live without, I think.
Well, but I think, you mentioned a good point. You can shoot it from using the EVF or even the live view, but can you actually nail the focus?
So, the Q2 autofocus was already really quick, really fast. And yes, if we're going to talk about autofocus, the Q3 features the phase detection.
Yep.
The Q3 has more autofocus points, 315 autofocus points versus 49 focus points.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And this only features the contrast detection. But the Q2 for me, the autofocus was fast enough already.
This is the moment that I realized that I could finally convince Stanton by showing him how good the autofocus is on the Q3. This was not an exact science test, but we could clearly see the Leica Q3 perform much better in terms of tracking than the Q2. This shows the Q2 doesn't stand a chance against the Q3, even in well-lit environment time. So I thought actually for low light performance that would be the same. So here we have the Leica Q3 in the dark, and I was wrong. Yes, so it does struggle. We tried different modes here and still it couldn't track our little kangaroo. In here you can see it tracking because we added an additional light source. We used the iPhone to light up, and with that it could track. Here is the Leica Q2 without any assistance. In the beginning it was struggling until we saw this moment where it could actually pick up and track better than the Leica Q3. So that was something that we didn't expect, even though sometimes it misses, but it had a higher accuracy than the Leica Q3 in low light, and we didn't expect that. So here we actually will try with the iPhone as well to assist in brightening the scene. And actually, the Leica Q2 goes back to the original. It doesn't hit as much, but still picks it up enough that it beats the Q3 in terms of focus.
Okay.
For things that I would shoot the Q2 with, whether for landscape, street, everyday photography, the Q2 autofocus was more than enough. Like I guess I could only think in certain situations where, if you're shooting like sports photography or bird photography, then yes, I agree a better autofocus system would work. But if you're shooting birds and photos, are you going to be using a Q3? Right.
Why not? Look at the large sensor. I can crop in as much as I want if if I
mean,
wanted to, right?
That's another interesting thing that you brought up regarding the cropping, because probably because the Q3 features a larger 16 megapixel sensor, so the cropping capabilities of the Q3 is indeed a bit better.
A bit significantly.
The Q2 crops up to 75 millimeters, whereas the Q3 crops up to 90 millimeters. And you know, personally speaking, I rarely crop above 50, but again, that's a personal preference. I think because
You should try mine.
okay. Personally, I think it's a personal preference because, as you know, cropping into 90 millimeters and actually shooting with a 19 millimeter focal length lens camera is different. The compression
Yes,
is different.
compression is
The depth of field is different. So sometimes I feel that with the 90 or the 75 millimeter crop, it can't help but feel a little bit artificial. So it's different, I would say.
Well, it gives you more room for framing, to be honest. If
Yes.
you want to frame it differently, I think I appreciate that of the Q3 is you have more margin of error if you want to frame it differently. I
Yeah,
think.
but then I would say actually, even if you were to, shoot at 75 millimeters, in post-production, you can always just crop further in, right?
True.
So I think it's a good feature to have, but again, for my personal preference and style, having shot more at 28, 35, or 50, it's not a deal breaker for the 75 versus 90.
Fair, and I mean the optics are the same, right?
Yeah.
From our cameras, the Q2 and Q3. So in that regards, there's not much difference in terms of the optics. But technically speaking, does your have USB-C?
Yes, so again, this camera does not have a USB-C cable.
There you go.
It does not have wireless
upgrade.
charging.
Just upgrade.
Okay.
Upgrade, man.
But I mean, as a more traditional shooter, I'm equally happy to charge my batteries. I'm equally happy to charge my camera batteries with a normal camera, as per se.
Look at this.
I know.
Look at
This doesn't have a USB-C cable. I do admit that having a USB, I think it's just the option of like being able to charge USB-C. For example, if you're traveling in the car and you want to charge a battery, or if, for example, you're traveling and you forgot to bring the charger, then having that USB-C cable option is useful.
Yeah.
But in terms of like everyday shooting, as per se, I don't think it makes a major difference to your way that you take.
To be honest, like for me, it's mainly on travels. If I have to carry this around, I don't have to carry the charger itself. So I think for me, it's a big gain to just bring the USB-C. Similar to my Canon cameras, I just bring the power charger that I can charge by USB-C, and that's pretty good. Instead of having like different chargers for every single camera. So definitely a plus side. The wireless charger, kind of a hit and miss, to be
Refer
honest.
to this video to find out
check it.
more about the wireless
Why
charger.
exactly? Yeah, it's not really something that's selling me, to be honest. But yeah, but other than that, I think the USB-C for me is a lifesaver for travels.
Yeah,
especially
that
the
is
volume.
that is a good bonus to have, I must say. There is a new battery in the Q3
Yeah.
with a better capacity, as per se. But I think according to, if you were actually just comparing like the Q2 battery for the Q2 camera and the Q3 battery for the Q3 camera, actually the battery life is similar.
I mean, this has a Master 4.
Yeah, it does
What
have a
does yours
Mastro. This is just a
Yeah.
normal Mastro processor. But I think, I mean, having shot this and even shooting this in burst mode, I haven't had any major problems in terms of the buffering and the processing speed. Because after all, it's a, it's sort of the same argument where like if you have a better computer, then you need, because your applications have larger files, then you need a better RAM,
computer,
better computer to process
That's
it,
true,
right?
yeah.
So I think even, yes, if we had the same if we had a better sensor but the same processor, then I think it might struggle. But I think it was built enough to be good enough for what it does. And so at least in my experience, real life world experience, then even shooting burst mode on the Q2 hasn't really given me any major problems.
Okay. So you don't feel limited with that.
Yeah, I don't feel too limited with the processor as per se.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about low light? Because mine nails that, right? That low light has more dynamic range than yours.
Well, stay to find out.
All right, so here's another chance for me to convince Stanton that Q3 is better than the Q2. With these pictures, we're trying to basically look at the camera sensitivity to light and how it performs when you increase the ISO to a higher number. And in a nutshell, Q3 beats the Q2. So I'll just prove that with some pictures that we took. So on the left-hand side, we have Q2, and on the right-hand side, we have Q3. So we started with basically the ISO 800s. On the left-hand side, we have the Q2, which honestly at 800, there's not much noise that's happening at this stage. It's pretty much the same. So we can jump straight to 1600, where we start to see a bit more noise appearing, especially on the shadows area. On the Q3, still pretty clean. Let's go to 6400. Okay, so obviously on the Q3, a bit of noise at this stage, but on the Q2 is significant, right? The noise, it's very visible, and it starts to basically appear even when you don't pixel peak. It's starting to be noticeable, and there's some kind of shift on the edge with some kind of a blue tint appearing, while on the Q3 still pretty much the same color as it was before. So now if we jump into 50,000, which is a big jump in terms of ISO, but I just want to show how it performs in the extreme cases. So in the Q3, this is 50,000 on the right hand side, and you can see it's a very usable picture. Obviously the noise is very significant, but if you apply denoise, it actually will become a very usable picture. On the left hand side with the Q2, I can't say the same thing. The shift on the edges, it's very, very visible, and the matte area, it just loses the original color, right? So we have this kind of shift happening. So I don't feel like on the left hand side on the Q2 I can use it anymore at 50,000. And we also have in blue the pictures that are taken with the MDNG. The yellow ones are in LDNG. The reason why we have taken also with MDNG is because there's a process that happens when you take it at MDNG, which is called pixel binning, which basically creates an average of pixels when you take it in a lower resolution, and it removes some of the details and it removes some of the noise as well. But we just want to prove that even in that kind of scenario, Q2 doesn't perform as well as the Q3. So in here, this is taking 6400, and if we zoom in on the Q2, again the noise is very visible, and if we zoom in a little bit more here, yeah, so Q2 definitely has much more noise visible on the picture itself, especially like on the shadow areas, while Q3, yes, there's still some noise. It's not as visible as the Q2. So there you go. Hopefully Stanton now is convinced that Q3 does perform better, especially at high ISOs, and yeah, that should convince him.
All right, video quality.
Oh, you actually want to bring that up. So, I mean, this shoots 8K. What more can I say, right?
How many times have you shot with 8K?
Fair amount. Yeah, enough. I do shoot mainly 4K 60, to be honest. But 8K is there. If I want to use it, I can use it.
Yeah.
So
for me, honestly, I haven't even used the video function once on this camera.
I mean, why would you?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think the Q attracts a more photographic crowd. People who are more into photos. So I think 90% of people would probably get this more predominantly as a photo camera. Obviously, I think having 8K function is great, but I think nowadays with most viewings on YouTube, social media platforms, 4K is more than enough for what we need.
Yeah.
And needless to say, the storage and all the processing, like you think that upgrading from a Q2, Q3, then you upgrade to 4K, 8K video, then you need to upgrade your camera and the memory cards and everything.
I mean, why not just upgrade everything, right?
So for me, the Q2 4K, I've never used it, but it'd be more than enough for what I like to do with it, I think.
Oh, fair enough. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I bought the Q3 is because the video specs of this, it could actually be a very good daily driver for me. So that's why actually I got the Q3, as well as obviously the photography aspect to it. Yeah.
And I think leaning on to that, then obviously, for photography, like a lot of people use the Q2 for like everyday life, street photography, food macro, and so in terms of the maximum frames per second, so the Q2 does 10 frames, the Q3 does 15 frames per second.
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah, so it's 50% faster, but 10 frames per second is still really impressive, even in modern day standards.
13 is not good as 13, is it? I mean, if you can do 13, you do 13.
Yeah, I mean, rewind a couple years, DSLRs were doing like 3-4 frames per second.
Fair enough.
So,
yeah.
and people still got the shot with that. So, I think 10 is definitely more than enough for most. Like, I can't see myself missing a shot because it didn't have 15 frames per second.
Probably missed the shot.
Yeah.
Because of the focus. yeah, of the focus, to be honest. But fair enough. Okay, I understand your points.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, you don't really get the shutter button like I do, right?
Yeah. The shutter button is a bit crap.
I think that's, I mean, just close off, that's the main reason for it, to be honest, right?
I mean, I do appreciate having the accessories that you can get on the Q3.
Yeah.
The shutter button, hand grips and everything, those are nice. So it's a nice touch to it, I think.
Yeah, so are you getting Q3 now?
Whew. My birthday is coming up in January, Junio.
All right. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Hopefully there'll be a special edition.
Q3 toy maybe coming
There'll
out.
be a special edition of the Q3, which will hopefully be
Has to be
visible by
white,
then.
apparently.
Has to be white.
Okay, Leica.
Yeah.
White Q3. Yeah.
Okay. In the meantime, another difference between these cameras is the shutter speed.
Yeah.
So the Q2 does 1/16,000. The Q3 does 1/40,000 when they're both in the leaf electronic shutter setting.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I think for me, that's a big plus, especially because none of us actually have internal ND filters.
Yeah. I think that's one of the big downsides.
Yeah.
I mean, downsides of the Q, which is like not having an inbuilt ND filter. That's a bit of a, but I guess it compensates with the fact shutter speed.
I think they really thought about it, I think, because indoors you really don't need you don't really need an ND unless you're doing some studio shoot. But in normal cases, you wouldn't need that. But outdoors, you can compensate that with a faster shutter. But you might get, and with the Q3, you still get a rolling shutter.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a, depends on the circumstance that you're actually using the camera. But yes, ideally, the internal ND would be fantastic to have.
Yeah. But I think, 1/16,000 is still pretty quick. I think unless you were shooting like directly towards the sun, or whatever. I mean, you rarely go beyond 1/16,000 of a second. Right. So good to have, but not a deal breaker. And I think for most everyday situations, you rarely go beyond 8,000, let alone 16,000, right?
That's true.
It's a nice thing to have, I would say.
I mean, yeah.
All right. Another thing is the viewfinder sort of specs. All right.
Have you looked into mine?
I haven't actually.
Yeah, exactly. Once you do, you.
Okay.
You
So this one is a 3.68 million megapixels.
Yeah.
That one is 5.76 million megapixels.
That's a lot of millions,
so,
man.
Okay, I'm just gonna take a look into it. Okay.
Take a look at this. This is gonna seal the deal, I bet. You see how many millions more is there?
It's definitely worth $1 million.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I mean, okay. It's a little bit nicer, I would say. Like, it's definitely a little bit brighter. You can see a little bit more contrast. But, like, unless I put them side by side, I mean...
Once you see it, you can't unsee it, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, no. No.
I mean, it's like, you can't take photos
of
1.76 million.
I can't.
Yeah, sorry.
It's unusable, to be honest.
Okay, now if you're watching this video, you're probably someone who's considering getting a new Q3, or you're someone who has a Q2 or a Q and you're looking whether or not you want to upgrade to the Q3. That's probably why you're watching this video, or if you're on the boat, on the fence.
It's possible that they're actually looking into Q in general, because I've seen people actually even considering Q1, like the first one.
Because, I mean, Q is really, I think it's the best-selling Leica camera at the moment, which I think Leica have done really well with in general, Q1, Q2, Q3. And what surprised me a lot when they released the Q3 was actually the retail price was only like $200-300 more expensive than the new Q2.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're looking for a new camera and you're comparing between the Q2 and Q3, then by all means go for the Q3, right?
If you can find it, because right now, as you know, pre-orders are very hard to get.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, if you have the money and the funds, if you have the money and the funds, then by all means get a new Q3. You won't buy a new Q2 as per se. If you're someone who already has a Q2 and you want to upgrade to the Q3, I think it's debatable. But for me personally, the Q2 is good enough. Honestly, the Q is good at camera too. So you can't go wrong with any of the Qs. They're all capable of taking amazing photos.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think it's as long as the upgrades that you're looking at, like even Q1 to Q2, Q2 to Q3, as long as the features that you're looking for, you're actually going to utilize them. Like, I mean, the number of pictures that you can take, right, frames per second, like compared to the Q2 and Q3, are you really maximize that?
Yeah.
Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
So you got to consider exactly what you want out of the upgrade, and then see if it's worthwhile. For me, I'm just jumping straight to the Q line.
Yeah.
As Stanton mentioned, I'm just getting a brand new one.
Yeah.
Might as well just get a Q3.
But I think on the other hand, what suddenly becomes very attractive is that, let's say you're looking to go into the Q system, and I think the Q2 prices would definitely have dropped a bit since the Q3 has been released, and you can get a very decent second-hand Q2 for significantly cheaper than a new Q3, probably 30 to 40% of a price difference.
That's true.
So the Q2 is still an amazing camera, and if you can find a good deal, save that money and spend it on something else. You can definitely do a lot. That's still a significant chunk of money.
Yeah, that's true. But actually, one thing that I just remembered that the Q3 has that any of the other ones do not have is the Leica looks.
Ooh, what's the Leica looks?
Exactly. What is the Leica looks, right? So technically speaking, if you're coming from Fuji, you have the Fuji recipes or the film kind of simulations. So technically for Q3, you do have a way to select different profiles, which I don't think you'll find on Q2. So you have the original ones, like the black and white, but there is basically specific ones, like these ones. The Leica Selenium, Blue, Classic. So these are actually part of the Q3 in a way that the app will allow you to install it.
Okay.
Which
I mean, to be fair, that's one of the arguments why some people love the X100 series because of the inbuilt sort of camera settings.
Yeah.
Which, if you have not checked out this video, we compare the Q3 and the X100. So make sure to check that out.
Yeah. But I would say that right now it's very limited because you only have like 3. If they do make it like the Fuji X100, I can see the Q3 really taking off because it's a big selling point for me to just be able to try different recipes.
But that being said, most people nowadays edit their photos in Lightroom, and there's hundreds and thousands of presets there, which can do the job. But it's nice to have.
Yeah, nice to have. Yeah.
Know that you can see what you're sort of getting straight out of the camera.
Yeah,
that's a nice feature to have as well. All right. So, anyway, we hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more to come.
Yes, and special thanks to Billy.
Yep, for lending us the cameras.
Yep,
and we'll have more videos featuring more cameras coming out soon.
Yep, stay tuned.
All right. Anyway, guys, we hope you enjoyed this video. Please, if you like this video, do comment and subscribe. It gives us great motivation to continue producing more videos for you guys. So until next time.
Until next time.